Brazil, Indonesia, the United States, India, and China. And India and China are just like, screw you guys, we have extra people. So yeah, number 10. Ta-da! Now, this may seem to be all fine and dandy, but there are a couple of problems. One is that 98.5% of Japan's population is native-born. There is only 1.5% that is foreign-born or classified as foreign-born. So, unlike other industrialized nations that have a lot of immigration, this is kind of exacerbating some of the population issues they're having. This is the ratio of men to women. It's pretty even. Japan is 54% women. So it is a little bit balanced towards their side. And oddly enough, it is 23% people over 65. That's a lot of old people. So yeah, there are alarm bells going off all over the ministry like, holy shit, dude, that's a lot of old people. Especially considering it used to look like this. And then before that, it looked like this. The population is aging really quickly. And that's just because of a couple of different factors. So this is what the population pyramid looked like in 1950. As you can see, you get older towards the top, and there's very few people who are over the age of 85 or 90. This is 2010.
Ooh.
So as you can see, there is this huge spike in the number of people over 60.
I'm in grade.
This is predictions for 2050.
Okay.
That's a whole lot of old people. And then you can see it kind of tapers off towards the bottom, which means the people who are young aren't having enough kids. So, huge problems. First, like I said, too many old people. Lots and lots of old people. More old people than a hospital that also has a bingo hall inside it. So, naturally, this is going to happen a lot in the next couple of decades. So this big old block is going to die, all at the same time, pretty much. Yeah, that's a little bleak, but this actually came out of the Ministry of Health. So the Ministry of Health has estimated that by 2060, the population of Japan will have dropped by as much as 30%. That is a full 1/3 of your population just keeled over.
It's like the Black Plague all over again.
So, this is what the population projections look like. As you can see, it is already starting to take a pretty steep nosedive, and it's only expected to get worse. So, next, there are too few young people. So, modifying our graph from earlier, that little slice is the people under 14. So, the rest are somewhere in between. So, there is not a lot of this population replenishment that's happening. This is a stable population. Every family has exactly 2 kids, no more, no less. You're perfectly stable. This is about the average for the industrialized world, because you have 1.5 kids per family on average. Don't ask me how that's possible. But anyways, they make up for it with immigration, because just statistically, immigrants have more kids. This makes up for it. You get a population that may be shifting in demographics, but is still relatively stable. Now, in Japan, it looks like this. They have about 1.2 or 1.3 kids per family.
They have an arm, essentially?
Essentially. Some families get a hand, some get like part of a torso. It all averages out in the end. But they also don't have the immigration numbers to kind of keep their population replenishment going. So this is also a huge problem. Family planning has become so common in Japan that if you don't want to have kids, you sure as fuck ain't gonna have kids. I don't know what they make them out of over there, but apparently it works better than here.
Story to tell you.
So, you can see the birth rate and the death rate. Birth rate in blue has just been falling for about 50 years now, whereas the death rate's been holding pretty stable and is just now starting to rise. So as you can see, that is your point where this becomes a problem. Your death rate is starting to outpace your birth rate, which means your population is going to start to take a nosedive. Next, single women, and lots of them. So, women in their 20s, about 50 to 60% of them are single. Just across the board in the entire country. So normally guys would be like, fuck yeah, single women everywhere. But this becomes another problem. Herbivore men.
Herbivore men? What the hell are you talking about?
This is a pretty recent phenomenon in Japan. You have men that look like this. They do not care about having a family. They care about money, going to clubs, and keeping themselves looking like that. That's it. So,
Why don't you say androgynous? That's herbivore is super confusing.
they're not gay.
It's androgynous, it's not gay.
They're not androgynous. They're just very well-groomed men. They're like, kids, I don't have time for that shit. I'm gonna go clubbing and do coke.
Bisexual.
Yes.
Yes.
So combine that with an exceeding number of women who are becoming what are called parasitic singles. They never get married, they stay with their families, and just go out and spend money on themselves. You have this problem that just kind of feeds on itself. So nobody really knows what they're going to do about this. So estimates have said this big red portion, that's like 69, 70% of men who are between 20 and 35 have no interest in getting married, having kids, having relationships, anything like that. None. This is crazy. I cannot even fathom it. So there are piles of money that the government is giving away to people. Be like, please, please screw each other. Which is why that at the first chance I get, I'm hopping a plane to Japan.
Hell yeah.
So, news this week. We have some pretty interesting stuff. Diablo 3 is getting rid of the auction house. They haven't said when, they haven't said how, but they're getting rid of it. Paradoxically, they're keeping the always online requirements for the PC version. So we'll see how this plays out. They've always said that the auction house, the way they imagined it, never really took form. So now they've just decided to axe it altogether. Speaking of these giant MMO movements, Activision Blizzard has tried to buy itself back from its parent company, Vivendi. But the problem with this is that CEO Bobby Kotick would have taken about 56% of the shares from this buyout. So a couple of shareholders have banded together and sued him on the grounds that it's just a simple power grab. So in the meantime, the legal status of the company is still kind of up in the air while we get all these lawsuits sorted out. It'll probably eventually happen, but not as fast as they thought. Writers from Telltale and the lead designer from Clay, who designed Mark of the Ninja, have formed their own studio called Kanto Santo, with the goal of revolutionizing the horror genre. So, stealth horror games. This is going to happen, and it's going to be amazing. In sad news, former Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi died at the age of 85. He had a very complicated case of pneumonia, and all across Nintendo, there are memorials going up for him and things like this. He was, I believe, the 22nd richest man in the country, and he owned about 1/3 of Nintendo's stock. So,
Where does that
lots of
go?
money.
Legitimate question, who'd that go to now?
I'm actually not sure. I know that his family still has regency over most of his estate, so they'll have to decide how things get divided up, whether certain shares go back to the company. So it may end up that the market gets flooded with some of his shares, and that would be bad for a company that's already bleeding money. So we'll see how this plays out. Square Enix continues to do interesting things. They've finally announced a release date in general for the 10 and 10 2 HD re-releases. They gave the general
That's
It is always. So whatever that means, whether they mean winter now, winter in the future, who knows?
What they mean to is for Aussies to come to your door and barter it. It's a game for you.
And to kind of distract people from all the flailing in the company that's going around, they are releasing some really impressive trailers at Tokyo Game Show right now. They blow my mind. They look beautiful, but I have doubts about whether the story and everything else is going to be up to snuff. So we'll wait to see until some more substantial news comes out of this than pretty pictures. In other news, Monster Hunter 4 has sold 4 million copies in 4 days on sale in Japan.
that would be
People are
neat.
just buying it so quickly they cannot keep it stocked on the shelves. And considering it's a 3DS title, that is pretty impressive. So they have not yet announced a United States or European release date, but there are no doubts that it will be making its way here.
Thank God.
And speaking of selling ridiculous numbers of things, GTA 5 has kind of laughed at that. It's sold 5 million copies in 24 hours. So, Rockstar's just rolling in ridiculous amounts of dough and couldn't give a fuck about any of the controversy that they've stirred up in classic Rockstar fashion. They're just pretty much telling the media, screw it, our game is awesome. If you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. That's pretty much what their website says right now. And this is genuinely awesome. Worlds and Panzer is doing a crossover with World of Tanks for their Japanese premiere. So the game is appearing on Japanese servers for the first time. So what they did is they got the most appropriate manga crossover ever. So it's essentially an extra volume that gives out instructions for playing the game and is ridiculously adorable. Plus, there are appearances by Hitler installed.
Yeah, that's it.
There have it.
We need to watch it.
The Attack on Titan manga series has hit 20 million volumes sold in Japan. It is one of, I believe, 11 series in the company's history to sell that much since they started keeping track. It is selling ridiculously well. And there's talk within certain circles, like spin-off series and stuff like that, but the author is not saying anything. So for now, they're just unsubstantiated rumors. Funimation is considering doing sub-only releases. No dubs on some of these. It's just an experiment for right now to see how well it will sell. And they're hoping that by doing this, they'll be able to bring more titles to the US more quickly.
Yeah.
So on the upside, you'll be able to get a lot of official releases very fast. On the downside, that does mean that free streaming will probably kind of sink down as a lot of the rights to these more obscure series get bought up very quickly for sub-only releases. So kind of got to take the good with the bad. And Aniplex has snagged the rights to Orishura and the Good Red Operation after these got pretty popular in streaming. So they now have the rights to these, and the box sets, I believe, are scheduled for release in January. So pretty soon. And second season has been greenlit for the Magical Girl series. Big Kai Liner Prisma Iliad. If you have not seen it, it is ridiculously awesome. So many explosions. So, if you like Magical Girls and you like them beating on things and you like explosions, go watch. Do it. Yes. Big, small ones, laser beams, any kind of explosions. If it's made of energy, the series has it. This happens! Taylor Swift has gotten his own figurine. So a couple of different artists have been getting figurines lately, and this is the latest one. It's based off of one of his music videos, and it is about yay big, and it's ridiculously adorable. So you can get a couple of different versions, but this is the standard. So, I had weird Japanese things last week, so this week I have awesome Japanese things. First, Toei is opening Tokusatsu Museum with all of their series. It's got props from all the various series. It's got a history of costumes, so you can walk through the hall and see the costumes of various iterations of Toei Tokusatsu. And they have games, they have costumes for sale. It's ridiculous and it's amazing. And I really wish I could go. And this, the Japanese government has released a 90-page paper studying of giant robot anime. About how giant robot anime have saved the Japanese economy by stimulating a toy business. They basically wrote a small book about how robot anime are awesome, and that is why we love the Japanese government. Now, finally, how many of y'all are frustrated when you have holes in your socks?
Yes.
Well, a company out of Tokyo has decided they have found the solution to this problem, and that is socks with holes already in them.
I was hoping for something real here.
They're called open soles, and they have strategically placed holes on the heel, in the middle, and near the ball of your foot, so that basically you're just buying socks with holes in them. There's no advantage to this. I don't know who thought this was a good idea, but apparently they have some sort of weird foot fetish. So that's it for the week.
Well done.